So the structure of the 2 days. Brief review of previous sessions. We'll look at Agile 101. We'll look at the business analyst in Agile. We'll talk extensively about user stories, and you'll get lots of practice. Now, it's appropriate at this point to clarify what I mean when I say user stories. And you probably heard this 2 or 3 times in the last class, but it bears repeating. That user story is a term that encompasses any level of the hierarchy. Now, that's really important. Any level of the hierarchy. That means ethics, that means features, as well as user stories. So user stories mean 2 different things. The definition could be 2 different things. One is, in the hierarchy, the lowest level of decomposition, stories that are suitable to be picked up by a development team, a Scrum team. The other definition for user story is meaning any level in the hierarchy. So ethics, features, and user stories are all examples of user stories, just at different levels of granularity. And we'll actually practice writing at different levels of granularity. So there's your first, hopefully one of your first aha moments. We'll talk about acceptance criteria, and I'm going to give you my favorite way to write acceptance criteria, but then I'll also give you the kind of the golden rule about acceptance criteria. We'll talk about story decomposition, which is slightly different than functional decomposition in waterfall. And then we'll look at story mapping. Now, story mapping is really cool because story mapping is a technique for uncovering MVP. And I actually have some special exercises for you guys once we do the ones that are in the deck. Day 2, we'll look at analysis wall management. And we're going to look at how do you determine where your issues are with your wall. Now, think of the wall as it can be in software, or it could physically be a wall where you have all your stories laid out. But think of that as being, you need to be able to understand what do you have in the pipeline, what's being worked on currently, and what have you completed so far. Agile analysis principles, there's 7 of them. Legacy techniques. There are many techniques, and actually probably the main ones are the ones we cover here. But almost any technique in waterfall can be used in Agile if you know how to spin it. And so not only will we talk about the legacy techniques that I have in the deck, we'll also talk about how do you spin them so that any technique you're used to using, you could actually change around and use. And then special topics in Agile, smaller, important topics, but they have a smaller interest, I guess you'd say. For instance, things like business intelligence in Agile, or enterprise data warehouse, which if you guys remember, I'm in the enterprise data warehouse area, so I'm very interested in how that's implemented in Agile. And then we're going to have a workshop exercise that literally pulls everything together, and that's going to be a real interesting one on day 2.